Tonight, we're stepping into the shadowed heart of a myth, not just to retell it, but to take it apart. Because this isn't really the story of a monster, it's the story of how a monster is made. We're going to explore the anatomy of divine cruelty through the tale of a woman whose name became a curse.
And this line right here, it just sets the whole stage. It reframes the entire narrative before we even begin. See, we're not here for a simple hero's tale. We're here to witness a transformation, one born from a terrible injustice. We're here to listen for the echo of a scream, trapped forever in stone.
So our story kicks off, as so many tragedies do, in a place that's supposed to be safe. Act 1 sets up this world of peace and devotion, but it also shows us something pretty chilling, that when the gods are watching, your virtue itself can become a target.
I want you to just picture it. A young woman, Medusa, completely devoted to her goddess, Athena. She's the pride of the temple, a living symbol of piety and light. In her world, that devotion is meant to be her shield. Those marble walls are meant to be her sanctuary. But she has no idea a shadow is about to fall, where the sun once danced.
But this is where we get this really chilling bit of foreshadowing. Her beauty, her purity, it's not a defense. No, the story frames it as an attraction, a silent prayer to a predator. It perfectly illustrates a core idea here. In a world with unchecked divine power, your innocence can actually be the very thing that invites destruction. And that, of course, brings us to the crisis. This is the moment the peace of the temple is shattered by a force that just doesn't care about boundaries. The salt spray starts to rise where no wave should ever reach.
The Earthshaker, that's Poseidon, god of the sea, he doesn't arrive quietly. He arrives with all the force of a brewing storm. And that image of his shadow just creeping across the sanctuary walls, it's such a powerful symbol of trespass. He's violating not just a mortal space, but the sacred domain of another god.
So let's be absolutely clear. This isn't a story about love or romance. This is about pure, absolute power. This idea of divine desire is presented as a force of nature, almost like a tidal wave. It doesn't care about what mortals want or the vows they've made. The sea, it doesn't ask permission. It just takes what it wants.
So the tragedy happens. But what's really fascinating here is that the story focuses less on the act of violence itself and more on what happens right after. The deafening silence from the one person who was supposed to protect her. The owl's eyes, her goddess's symbol, they simply turn away.
And the contrast is just absolute. The sanctuary, once a place of prayer, is now defined by this heavy silence of violation. You have to understand the crime here is twofold. It's an attack on a mortal woman, yes, but it's also a direct, calculated insult to another god.
And in the aftermath, there's Medusa, kneeling in the wreckage of her own life. And she reaches out to her goddess for help, for some kind of comfort, but nothing comes. Athena has already turned away, closed her heart. The betrayal is just immediate, and it's absolute.
And right here, this is the crucial pivot point of the whole story. It's not about what Poseidon did anymore. It's all about how Athena reacts. And what this shows us about the mindset of the gods is, frankly, shocking. The real crime, in Athena's eyes, wasn't the assault on her priestess. It was the insult to her. Her temple was defiled, and that's the only thing she cares about fixing.
And this wounded pride, well, it leads to maybe one of the most infamous acts of injustice in all of mythology. The victim being punished for the crime that was committed against her.
So, Athena finally shows up. But not to help, not to comfort. No, she comes as a judge, and you can tell the verdict is already in. Her gaze is all about condemnation, and it's aimed squarely at the survivor. The very power that should have protected Medusa now arrives only to punish her.
And this just lays the hypocrisy bare. It's so stark. So look at this. On one side, you've got the divine rationale. A sacred space was defiled, a goddess's pride was wounded, and a mortal's ego got bruised. And on the other side, the mortal suffering. The actual victim of that crime is the one who gets punished. Her body is grotesquely twisted into a weapon. It is without a doubt victim blaming on a cosmic scale.
In this punishment, it's not like she's just banished. Oh no, it's a complete, horrifying teardown and reconstruction of her very being. She's about to be forged into the monster that history remembers.
So let's walk through this transformation, because every single step is like a twisted, cruel reflection of her trauma. First, her beautiful hair. It starts to writhe and hiss, becoming this crown of venom, a perfect match for the poison that's now in her spirit. Then her skin hardens, becoming a shell,
I mean, it's a defense against a world that gave her absolutely no safety. And her eyes, the very eyes that saw the horror, they're now cursed with this power to turn people to stone, to bring eternal sleep. And with each step, the woman she used to be just fades away, buried alive behind this monstrous mask. So you see, Medusa isn't just a monster. She becomes living proof of divine injustice. Her entire being is a constant, horrifying mirror reflecting the cruelty and the hypocrisy of the gods who did this to her. She becomes a guardian of a wasteland, a walking monument to their failure, and maybe even their fear.
But the tragedy doesn't even stop there. There's one last act needed to really seal this injustice for good. See, the official story needs a hero to come along, slay the monster, and tidy up the narrative.
And that's how we need to see the arrival of Perseus, right? This isn't some heroic quest. It is the final, brutal act of silencing the victim. He's coming to destroy the evidence. By killing the monster, he erases the woman and her story completely. And that allows the gods' version of events, the story of a triumphant hero over a vile beast, to become the only one that's ever told.
And with her death, the silencing is absolute. Her scream is finally trapped in the stone. This line just powerfully ends her story. It's a silence born of trauma, of injustice, and of murder. A silence so complete it becomes its own eternal monument, a testament to the girl who lived before the snakes.
So we're left with this question. When you look at this myth through this lens, it really forces you to stop and reconsider the stories we're all told. It makes you want to look past the official version, you know? To ask yourself who gets to be the hero and who gets called the monster. And more often than not, it just comes down to who holds the power to write the history books.